We are back with another episode of the Jock Podcast, live from Nikki's garage.
Yep, here we are.
Cheers.
Oh, yep.
Episode 2.
It's episode 2.
We made it past the introduction, and so did you. Thank you. we cheers. We flexed the bicep a little bit.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
Play into the jock tendencies a little bit, right? So I wanted to just dive right into it. We've had a lot of discussions this week, and we did some reminiscing off air, just about things that have gone on in our lives, right? And one of them that really stood out and resonated with me, which I want to start with, is a story from a few years ago. A lot of fun times in our lives. We were hanging out late at night, and we were just getting back to Nick's house. And Nick is going around the side of the house to go in. And in the bushes, there was a man hiding, right? And thankfully, Nick saw him. I still remember it to this day. So, whoa, who are you? And then we hear some rattling. Thankfully, my good buddy Nick here is a good fighter. Some will call him a professional fighter. And you don't get forearms like that from not fighting.
All right.
All right, that's the last compliment I'll give. But so Nick takes him down, thanks to his training. Shout out to Jim O.
Yep. Shout out to
Jim
Jim
O.
O.
Takes him down, found a gun on him. You kick the gun away. Our other friend grabs the gun. I do what I do best. I know my role. I grab my phone. I let you guys handle that. I let the pros do their work.
You were good at it.
I call the cops. I handle the business side of things. And really, although all of that was really cool, you guys were really badass when you're taking down the robber and all of that. But that's not what really resonated with me. That's not what really stood out to me. What stood out to me really was, at this moment of such a high danger, like a volatile situation, anything can happen. Once the situation is disarmed, you're as cool as a cucumber and you are ready to impact this kid's life. So the first thing you say when you're on top of him is, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You make him question himself, right?
Yep.
Why are you doing this? This is literally, I remember sitting there like, Nick is crazy. Just took down this robber. Now he's having an intervention with the kid. Like, what's going on? So I'll start with you. I'm going to flip it on you and say, why were you in that moment, in that dangerous moment? Did you want to take the time to really have the kid question what he was doing?
Yeah. So first of all, great job on the phone that day. You were quick, buddy.
Thank you.
So at that point, like you said, the fear of the situation's gone. I know the gun. Well, I know the one gun was gone. We did not know about the second, so I could have done a little better there. But the gun's gone. The cops are on their way. You're on the phone with them still, and our other friend is now in possession of the gun. So I feel very safe. I have both of his arms behind him. So at this point, I'm very aware that we're no longer in dire situation. So all of a sudden, reality starts coming in, and I guess that's when you can start to feel that like empathy, and no empathy is justifying what he's doing. But I'm starting to wonder like how is this happening? How is this reality right now? Like, at what point did like this kid feel the need that to rob someone's house and carry a gun on him and potentially ruin someone's life or his own? So I guess at that point, when I asked him like why, I was truly genuinely wondering, like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing with your life? This is some serious stuff, because we all make mistakes, right?
Yeah, of course.
So I'm asking him this question, and his answer was actually hilarious. I said, what are you doing? And I said, I don't want to be doing this to you. And he said, you're doing this right now.
Yeah.
So I remember him saying that, and like, I mean, I have no choice at this point. But yeah, so I'm wondering, like, well, like, what happened in your life that you feel like you need to put other people in harm's way and potentially yourself? Because realistically, if somebody else found him, like, thankfully, because of my training, I was confident to apprehend him and, calm the situation down. But if somebody wasn't, and that was somebody's father or husband, who knows what they would have done?
Yeah.
So that being said, I'm talking to him. I'm like asking him why he's doing this. At this point, the cops get there. And that's when everything kind of settled in. And I did start shaking a little bit after the fact. The cops were questioning me. I was very, it was just crazy. But yeah, I was just wondering, like, what happened in your life that you felt like this was the best thing to do right now?
Yeah. Well, it is a big part of that where one, you weren't just asking the question to ask it, right?
Mhm.
You wanted to
Mhm.
take that time as a mentor,
Yeah.
as someone to get him to
Mhm.
think as well, right? Once
Yeah,
once
yeah.
the situation disarmed of it.
Yeah, I guess I was just trying to find that like common ground because like at the end of the day, we're all in this together. Like we're all, we're all
Mhm.
sinners. We are all in this together.
Yeah.
So I really truly wanted to know like, like life's not, there's nothing in your life that's
Yeah.
going on
Yeah.
that justifies this or is a reason that you need to do this. Because you ask yourself the simple part of it, like, well,
Yeah.
why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And you can get the simple answers, which is what, like money. You didn't think you'd get caught. You wanted to see what you can get.
Yeah.
Who knows? The adrenaline, maybe,
Yeah.
or even drugs or alcohol.
Yeah.
But you can go much deeper than that,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah.
Well, we can relate that then to today's age. We're fast forwarding,
Mhm.
right? Hopefully that conversation hit a spark in him, right?
Yeah.
We want to hope that was his low,
Yep.
that got him to question what he was doing, that got him to question his foundation, because like you like to say, and it's really resonated with me recently, is you don't have a strong structure without a strong foundation.
Yeah.
And we're going to fast forward today to now you're running, we're putting yourself here 3 years later.
Yep.
You're running multiple companies.
Mhm.
You're building mentorship programs. You're trying to do all these things to influence the youth and to influence just everyone around you. With that, when it comes to building a strong structure, where do you like to start?
Yeah. So, of course, with the strong structure, like you just said, you need a strong foundation. And no matter how strong your structure is, like, especially with the businesses, because that's something like I can easily, or a lot of people can understand. So, when you're building a business, you ever seen My Cousin Vinny?
Oh, I love that movie.
So, he has I forget the kid's name, but he was getting worried that they were going to lose the court case. And Vinny, Joe Pesci, comes in and I guess, puts his mind at ease and he uses some playing cards, if you remember.
Yeah.
And he shows him these playing cards and he said, the DA, what they're doing is they're building this large case and he's showing them the front of these playing cards, right? And then he makes the point that it's all a mirage, it's all an illusion. Like if you flip that playing card, you got nothing. So with that being relatable to building a business, at the end of the day, if you build a business and you have all of this structure, what seems to be from an outside perspective success, or what people would define it as, a lot of people at least, you really have nothing unless your foundation is strong and you built that structure based on some strong moral principles and that moral compass is laid deep down within your foundation, excuse me.
I get it. So in a lot of that too is do you see people wanting to do these things for the wrong reason, whether it be materialistic items, just trying to make a quick buck, right? Or like I do, we've talked about this a lot, like a part of the reason why you want to become an entrepreneur or build a business is to better society, right? To better those around you, to better your family, to better yourself. Do you often see the flip side of it where someone is looking to get into it without a good foundation and they're just kind of doing sleazy tactics, or they're like, do you see that?
Yeah, of course. And that's one thing my business partner and my business partner Nick and I know Nick and Nick,
Yeah.
St. Nick's Christmas
Nick's,
lights,
there you
shout
go.
out. That's one thing that we always try and stick to is maintaining that integrity. And no matter what we're going to do, we're going to remain ethical. And yeah, so a lot of people, when they approach me because now people are starting to ask me like, hey, what do you think about this for a business? Or, hey, would you like to get involved with this? I have this idea. And a lot of times they're, guys around our age, sometimes older, sometimes younger. And now at this point, I always ask the same questions. And I guess one of them is, why are you doing this? What's your goal? And a lot of times they don't even know, right?
Yeah.
What's the easy thing? Like, oh, I want to get rich. I want to make money.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's actually a verse in the Bible. I think it's Matthew 16:26.
Okay.
Could be wrong.
Okay.
And I cannot recite it perfectly, but pretty much Jesus is asking, for what are you if you gain the whole world but lose your soul? So that's pretty powerful. Like you see all this stuff. See, someone has success, right? They have this beautiful business. They're making $3 million a year. But if you lose all that, like what are you? And what are you sacrificing to have it? As long as those things align with you morally, that's true success, right? And that's where that foundation is going to count, and that's where you're not going to ever fail.
Yeah.
So.
No, that makes sense, and I can relate it too from my years in the corporate side of America, right? Especially when you're looking on the sales, the financial side of corporate America. there's money involved, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're really good at what you do, you can make a lot of money in
Yeah.
those fields, right? But it's very cutthroat, and
Mhm.
sometimes it can be, and you run into a lot of people trying to do things for the wrong reason, right?
Mhm.
If you're in sales and you're crushing it, and well, guess what? There's probably a lot of networking at bars. There's probably a lot of getting ahead by maybe you're pushing a coworker to the side and you're stealing
Mhm.
some of his deals. Like
Yeah.
I've seen all of that happen,
Mhm.
and if you don't have that good moral foundation built on faith, built on values, it's all going to come crashing down. You see it time
Yeah.
after time.
Yeah.
It's like the house of cards, right? It comes
Yeah.
crashing down
Yep.
if you're not built on that good foundation. Like
Mhm.
things catch up to you.
Yeah, and if you're sacrificing those morals to get there, at the end of the day, like you said, if it does come crashing down, what are you left with? Like, are you putting your identity in that success? Because if you are, you're doing this for the wrong reason, and you have a much larger problem. And that's where you find yourself in a hole, depression, that big anxiety, all that eventually comes from that. So you need to have no matter what you do in life, building a business, looking for that promotion, any form of success, without that strong foundation,
Yeah.
you're not getting anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I'll ask you, I'll relate it to yourself personally.
Mhm.
As you're building your companies, if you didn't have this foundation in place, if you didn't have this great relationship with your fiance, soon to be wife, if you didn't have your daughter Tundra, even, right? Like the dogs that we call like that kids,
Yeah.
right? Your family, your faith, your everything, your friendships that you work very hard
Mhm.
on, and you're just focused on building your companies in the wrong way. Let's
Yeah.
call it just that. On
Mhm.
paper, it might look very successful. You might be driving an insane car. You're
Mhm.
doing really well. Are you like, what does your life look like in that
Yeah.
point if you don't have the rest of
Yeah.
that in place? What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're bringing up this point that makes me. It goes back. So right now, Claire and I, we're doing our premarital counseling, which is
Okay.
very fun, with a gentleman named Gio who's marrying us. Him and his wife do an amazing job through the premarital process.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked us a question on the first day we met with him, and he asked us about what our why was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of those things that makes us question, well, why are you doing this? Like,
Yeah.
why are you doing all of this? And you really got to dig deep to question that. So like, as I'm going through the business and I'm doing all this stuff, now that I know what my why is, which I have my foundation,
Mm-hmm.
God, and my family, and what I look to build, it's all coming from that. So I feel like I'm just unstoppable, and no matter what happens, I'm good because I'm setting my foundation.
Got it. And then, I mean, with that, if you weren't, right, on
Mm-hmm.
the flip side, I want to get into that a little bit. What do you say to someone who might be listening and thinking through their life, and they're
Mm-hmm.
saying, on paper,
Yeah.
this is the life,
Yeah.
right? I've got it all made, but deep in here,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
not there. What do you say?
So Jesus has there's another parable actually in the Bible. I don't know who said it. I don't
Okay.
want to quote it wrong,
Yeah.
incorrectly, but
Yeah.
pretty much the gist of it is, there's two builders.
Okay.
And they are both to build a house. And one of them decides to build it by the water on the sand. So he can have quick baths, whatever, access to this. I mean, by the water. Isn't that great? That instant gratification. Yeah, so it may seem great, but it's not in the end. Then you have the other builder who went up and built his house on solid rock, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it was a pain. It was a nuisance to go get fresh water, whatever, water for a bath, whatever he needed to do. But then when a storm came, the house on the sand washed away, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So what would I say to somebody now looking to start building?
Mm-hmm.
You got to find the most solid ground you can and head to your local hardware store and start digging.
Oh,
You got to grab a shovel.
aisle 16.
Aisle 16 at Lowe's. Get the Craftsman. No, that's not a great brand. I don't know. Now I'm putting down brands. Just kidding. It was for the sake of a joke. But yeah, so I would, all jokes aside, you need to dig deep and you need to start from the bottom, because without that, no matter what your structure, no matter what your house of cards, whatever it appears to be from an outside perspective, it's really nothing without a strong foundation. And that's really where it's all going to stem from.
So I go to my local hardware store, I get my shovel, I'm ready to start digging. But what am I digging for?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what you're digging for is, you're looking for the most solid ground you can have, right? For essentially absolute truth. So you're genuinely looking for the most honest and absolute rock bottom you can find. And the only place you're going to find that is in our Savior Jesus Christ. There is not one part of any bit of life that is not applicable, or you're not going to go through anything in life that you can't find an answer in the Word of God. It's truly the answer for everything, and based on your morals after you get closer to God, the closer you get to God, the stronger you're going to feel.
Yeah.
So now that you have this foundation, there is nothing, I promise you, there is nothing you cannot do. Philippians 4:16, I don't know, but it's pretty much, through him I can do all things. And I truly believe that. I've lived it. I'm living proof of it. And that's where you get that will from. That's where you get that why from. That's that unstoppable. That's that wake up in the morning with a fire under your butt, ready to go, looking for the sun, ready to start the day, those late nights, everything. It all comes from that. And once you have that, you don't even need motivation, because you're going to rely on your discipline. You're going to see such a bigger picture that it doesn't matter if you're feeling motivated that day, if you're not feeling motivated that day. You're going to feel that fire, and you're going to know it burns from discipline. And that's that delayed gratification that we're all in this for.
That's a good point, because there's been many times when I've been motivated, you've been motivated, but it's proven motivation wears off.
Yeah.
If you don't have that foundation, you don't have that discipline. It's huge. That's a word we haven't even discussed yet. I'm sure we can go into a whole nother podcast about it. But developing those habits that turn into discipline, right? Yeah. That's how you build that really strong foundation. Because you can be motivated all you want, but guess what? That lasts a couple weeks without the right settings. So in
for
place.
Sure. There's been a lot of times in my life where I faced these challenges. Two I can think of immediately. On more surface level things are like my business, right? Highly motivated. All of a sudden, I'm 3 months in. I spent everything I had to invest in the company, and I'm making almost no money.
Yeah.
And that's when I'm like, all right, I'm not very motivated to keep going. But I had my goal. I had my why. So at that point, there was no, for someone without that foundation, they may start questioning things. Yeah. There was no option B for me. So I kept on digging. I understood the mission. I understood what I had to do. Another time is fighting, cutting weight. One of the hardest things, at least for me, it was. And it's very easy to wake up knowing you have another 12 pounds to go and you already feel like you can't do anything. If you're solely driven off of motivation, you're going to choose to open that refrigerator door and just start going to town.
Yeah. Well, I can relate it to my current situation too, right? Like, I've had many opportunities in my life. I've been blessed with them of doors being open, right? And you get excited, right? Anytime there's a new door open, you're excited for a little bit. In my life, without a good foundation and in my previous roles, that motivation has worn off pretty quickly. And I've caught myself falling down this avenue of like, hey, now I've even talked to you about this. Like, now I'm stuck in that cycle of, it's an opportunity. I'm going to work. Well, I'm going home. I'm sleeping. I'm eating bad. I'm skipping the gym. Yeah. You start losing yourself a bit when it's solely based on motivation. You don't have that. So now this new opportunity that I've been blessed with, I've been trying to go about it in an intentional way with that foundation that I've been building and working on to where, hey, now in the morning, I'm going to the gym before I go to work, right? Now I'm eating healthy throughout the day. I'm not getting sucked into the Uber Eats to the office and eating bad. I'm relying on my core values and my faith to pull myself up when I'm caught in a bad meeting, or someone's like, hey, John, I need this done at 4:00, rather than me saying, it sounds like, I got it. I got it. We're doing it because you build this strong foundation. And then I'm not just plopping on the couch. That's the biggest thing for me. I love the couch. After work, when you get home and you're tired and all you want to do is sit on the couch and eat a burger and hang out. Like, with that foundation in there, and I'm going to keep using that because I think it wraps it up. But it's easier to navigate those new opportunities without getting burnt out if you're disciplined.
Yeah, and let's look at this from a whole nother aspect of life. We're applying a lot of this to business and like financial. But what about like those simple moral decisions and those simple moments where you're with your one friend and he's talking bad about your other friend, and it's so easy sometimes to hop on the bandwagon and be like, you know what? I am tired of John drinking all my Diet Coke when he comes over. But you gave it up for Lent, buddy. So, all right. But those moments too, right? That foundation is going to help us overcome that temptation, because otherwise if you have no why, if you don't have a reason, your foundation for why you're making the decisions you are, you're slowly just chipping away at who you are and that integrity and your character. And that's just another reason why it's so important to, if you want to become the best you can be, essentially, without that foundation, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Let's end it on a fun note. So,
Okay.
And I want this to be applicable to us, to the Jocksters out there,
Ooh.
right? So we've said all these things, right?
Mhm.
It's, again, if I'm listening to this without a foundation, I might be saying, I listened to this podcast.
Mhm.
They talked all this about how we've got this foundation,
Yeah.
but then I turn it off and I go about my life.
Mhm.
And I don't have an actionable step.
Mhm.
Give our Jocksters one thing they could do this week that
Mhm.
will set them up for a good foundation.
Reflect and ask yourself, what is your foundation? And to make sure you understand it. And if you don't, that's okay, right? That's why we're here. But it's time to start. And if you don't, if you do or you don't, what I would suggest you do this week is open up your Bible. We have an awesome thing called Google. Just start searching and look for the Word of God this week and truly see what He's trying to tell you. You know, the more we look for Him, the more we'll find Him. So that's where I'll leave you for this week.
There you go. That's Nikki's homework. Johnny's homework is to go on a walk. I want you to go. The weather might be beautiful, even if it's not beautiful. Just go on a walk, embrace it. And that's where I get a lot of my good thinking. So I want to see if it works for you too. And while you're on that walk, intentionally think and ask yourself the tough questions, right? Maybe ask yourself about your why. You don't need the answers while you're on the walk.
Mhm.
Just get to thinking and start to question some of the things you're doing. That was a good start for me in building this foundation. So again, get active, ask yourself some tough questions about why you're doing some of the things. And I think you'll be surprised at the results that you'll see from that. So it's a good start.
I love it.
All right.
All right.
We're ending it there. Ending with some biceps. Cheers.
Oh, yeah. So,
Yeah.
look up, there it goes. There it goes.
Sorry. I'm still working on the summer
You don't
bun.
sip every time we...
Oh, that's
I
bad
noticed
luck.
it the first
That's bad
time.
luck.
I don't believe in luck.
Yeah, they're going to get that on the mic. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.